Now the skeptic will say, well, what about Ahaziah, Joash, and Amaziah? They were omitted, but they were omitted for a reason. Let us look at the first three names. 2 Kings 8:25. The 12th year of Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother's name was Athaliah, granddaughter of Omri, king of Israel. Athaliah was a granddaughter of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, who needs no special introduction to the Bible readers. These two names will cause a shudder through the spine of every Jew because of their evil acts. According to Deuteronomy 5:9 and Exodus 34:7 and Numbers 14:18, God will punish the sins of the fathers up to the 4th generation. In Deuteronomy 5:9, you shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. Thus, we fixed that T. Thus the sins of Ahab and Jezebel was visited up to the 4th generation. Ahab, Ahaziah, and Joash, Amaziah, and Uzziah. Deuteronomy 5:1, Moses summoned all to Israel and said, Hear, O Israel, the decrees and laws I have declared in your hearing today. Learn them and be sure to follow them. 5:2, the Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. Deuteronomy 5:6, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven, above or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. And 5:10, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Then we have in Exodus 34:6, and he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he leaves not the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the fathers to the 4th, 3rd, and 4th generation. And again in Numbers 14 with the same thing. Slow to anger, abounding in love, forgiving sin and rebellion, does not leave the guilty unpunished, punishes the children of the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation. Thus, because of the great iniquities of Ahab and Jezebel, the punishment was carried over through Athaliah in unabated form. In the eyes of God, these 4 generations were counted unworthy of the throne of David. So we've got corroboration. Why the omission? We got it. Point 6, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, Jeconiah, a.k.a. Coniah, and Zedekiah were omitted for a reason. The problem of Jehoiachin's age resolved. There is a slight problem here with regard to the age at which Jehoiachin started to reign. While 2 Chronicles 36:9 quotes it as 8, 2 Kings 24:8 puts it at 18. 2 Kings 24:8, Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elnathan. She was from Jerusalem. This is probably because of the inability to distinguish the slight variation of numbers 8 and 18 in the original. 18 could have been more probable because he must have been married by then, since 2 Kings 24:15 mentions the king's wives specifically. But he did not have any children at that time, and as they are not mentioned in the list of captives. He was probably impotent. Or was he 8 and had early marriage? This is unlikely, as child marriage was unknown among the Jews. So modern scholarship translates it as 18. The documents are unclear here, but the context indicates 18. A single Hebrew character was not copied in 2 Chronicles 36:9, making the 18 and 8. Now we have a study on this matter for more detail in Jehoiachin, if you want to go and take a look at that. Let's move on. So, there's a specific reason and not fiction. God's curse against Jehoiachin. Now we turn to the last of the kings of Judah who were deleted from the dynasty. 2 Chronicles 36:9. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months and 10 days. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. 2 Chronicles 36:10. In the spring, King Nebuchadnezzar sent for him and brought him to Babylon, together with articles of value from the temple of the Lord. And he made Jehoiachin's uncle, Zedekiah, king over Judah and Jerusalem. You think there's any conniving going on here? Yeah. The prophecy against Jeconiah, or Jehoiachin, can be found in Jeremiah 22:24-30. As surely as I live, declares the Lord, even you, Jehoiachin, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were a signet ring on my right hand, and I would still pull you off. I will hand you over to those who seek your life, those you fear, to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to the Babylonians. I will hurl you and the mother who gave you birth into another country where neither of you was born, and there you both will die. You will never come back to the land you long to return to. Is this man Jehoiachin a despised broken pot, an object no one wants? Why will he and his children be hurled out, cast into a land they do not know? O land, 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 hear the word of the Lord. This is what the Lord says. Record this man as if childless, a man who will not prosper in his lifetime, for none of his offspring will prosper. None will sit on the throne of David or rule anymore in Judah. And when you start having the responsibility of ruling God's chosen people, you better live up to it. Evidently, Jesus could not be born in the lineage which was cut off by the Lord and be the king in the line of David. This lineage and royal line ended with Jeconiah, or Jehoiachin. The 18-year-old Jeconiah was carried away to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar and put in the dungeon of Babylon. Are we clear on that? 2 Kings 24:15. Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiachin captive to Babylon. He also took from Jerusalem to Babylon the king's mother, his wives, his officials, and the leading men of the land. They're all conspiring together. You have also 2 Chronicles and Esther and Jeremiah to corroborate this. He was in the prison for 37 years. We had a little bit more about this. 37th year, the exile of Jehoiachin, the king of Judah. In the year Evil-Merodach became king of Babylon, he released Jehoiachin from prison on the 27th day of the 12th month. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat of honor, higher than those of the other kings who were with him in Babylon, despite his conspiracies. So Jehoiachin put aside his prison clothes and for the rest of his life ate regularly at the king's table. Day by day the king gave Jehoiachin a regular allowance as long as he lived. At the end of this 37 years, at the age probably of 55 years or 45, he was released from the prison by Evil-Merodach. We notice that Jehoiachin was in the dungeon all the days of his youth and came out at a very old age. He could not have had any children, at least until 45, till he came out of the dungeons of Babylon. Yet we have a number of sons mentioned in Chronicles, the successors of Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin his son, and Zedekiah, the descendants of Jehoiachin, the captives, Shealtiel his son, and others. How come this? In order to understand this, we need to look into the Jewish arrangement of maintaining the name of a family through the Levirate custom. The Levirate marriage system provides an explanation for Jehoiakim's successors, Jehoiachin and Zedekiah. So now we're answering these other 2 names. The Levirate system was a normal practice in most tribes and cultures from ancient times. The specific commandment for this is found in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 25:5. If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside of the family. His husband's brother shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. The first son she bears shall carry on the name of the dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. This was not a new law. The Lord confirmed and accepted the local practice in this regard and validated it. The fact that this custom was prevalent can be found in the case of Judah's son in Genesis 38:8 and 11. Then Judah said to Onan, lie with your brother's wife, and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to produce offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he lay with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from producing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death also. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up, for he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. The concept of brother in this concept does not necessarily have to be interpreted only as a direct brother. From this comes the concept of kinsman redeemer. This is shown in the story of Ruth, where Boaz was not the direct brother of Mahlon and Chilion, but a close relative. This practice is still found in the southern Sudan and other Jewish-like cultures. In fact, the dead man's wife may take the nearest relative, or if he refuses, she may take anyone from the family or even from the tribe. The children born from such relations belong to her husband in name and in inheritance. These laws were made in order to protect the rights of the women. There has to be someone to take care of the widows and her rights to sexual satisfaction. In Sudan, where polygamy is prevalent, the master of the house may have several wives, and some of them may be very young. These young women have the right of life, and this is guaranteed through their Levirate system. In some cases, the elder son is asked to take the father's young widows as wives if the father's brothers are old and unfit for sexual relations. This arrangement also makes sure that the property remains within the family and will not go out to others. The system of Levirate was a very powerful method of maintaining the family heritage and property. Under the circumstances connected with Jeconiah, it is therefore legitimate and reasonable to assume that the children who are reckoned to be his or our children out of the Levirate system. This is to be assumed also on the basis of Jeremiah's prophecy. We shall take this up again when we come to this in Luke's genealogy. Levirate customs. The genealogy of Luke investigated. Luke was a physician who was widely traveled and well placed in society. He was probably a doctor who traveled in the ships. He knew many well-placed aristocrats, and is indicated in his addressing of the gospel in the book of Acts of the Apostles to the most excellent Theophilus. Theophilus mentioned here is considered to be Titus Flavius of Clement of Rome, who was a cousin of Emperor Domitian, who ruled from AD 95 onwards. Flavius was the Roman consul and was later martyred along with his wife Domitilla for being Christians. It can therefore be deduced that he had very high connections. We have no records to show that he ever met Jesus while Jesus was alive. He was probably a Jew in dispersion and was a free man of great wealth. Luke had a scientific outlook, which is to be expected from a physician. He has written his books after serious research into the events, as he claims in his introduction. Luke 1:1, many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who were from the first, were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. Therefore, since I myself have carefully considered and investigated everything from the beginning, it seemed good also to me to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. He had evidently known and read all the existing documents on the life of Jesus, which were written by people who had seen and heard and lived with Jesus. Luke, accordingly, may not be considered as an eyewitness, but he had taken the pains to do extensive research in the life of Jesus before embarking upon the venture. The gospel itself clearly exemplifies this claim. Many of the personal stories of Mary, Joseph, disciples, women, and other Gentile people are given in greater depth and detail in Luke. Why did Luke take up the writing, since there were an abundance of such documents? The reason is also given in the introduction, so that you may know the certainty of things you have been taught. Earlier documents were evidently written by eyewitnesses as personal anecdotes and memoirs, and were not comprehensive enough to be presented as the gospel to the Gentile world. Others were all personal documents, and were written essentially by the Jews and for the Jews. Luke was writing to the Gentiles who did not understand the Jewish traditions and customs. Legalism of the Jews and the custom of counting the lineage by legal rights, whether by Levirate marriage or by kinsman-redeemer marriage, or even ghost marriage, was not understood by outsiders. Hence, it is natural for him to adopt the blood relation as the basis of tracing the lineage. In tracing the lineage, he traces the lineage back to Adam and to God. Amazing, all the way back to Adam and to God. Montague Stephen Mills, in a comparison of the Genesis and Lucan genealogies. There's a case for Canaan here. Apparently, this is a thesis I looked up, it was missing. Luke claims that the record is an account handed down by eyewitnesses and servants of the word. The term servants of the word warrants study, for the word translated servant is aprites, and an examination of its use in the New Testament demonstrates that it usually denotes an